Itabusia like video na share mo before na ono so enye bi enhwe na yeah former CEO edema Bafa Stock Company Abdul Wahab Hanan ni case a ekoso na nanu ada beto dwa se High Court granting permission so betimi etu kwan nanka wakwa akohwe na pomudin wo UK na Attorney General order man security for ekochire no enei is over 72 hours a still na no a omwatimi agranti permission edi amani lawyers impo na omwatimi ehun no ene na di nsawoso ni nyina no infringement on Abdul Hanan ne writer chese ha dwinye papa enya nsem ketua na nsem a ekoso no a call for a lot of discussions and debate lawyers ekuku da mamunso enimde edi omanu atumu a omwatimi achechiro omadwen a enya asem ketua na yanjibre na yenkotie the latest update on Abdul Hanan Wahab ni situation no na yenso yenche yadwen emfa.
This is bizarre, isn't it? The last Monday we put out a video on social media for you to see the way in which Hanan Abdul is being treated by the Republic and its agencies of law. Law enforcement agencies are turning the law on its head as far as Hanan is concerned. The Attorney General and his deputy, Stremsai, told the whole nation that they were going to court to get a review of the Hanan conditions. The High Court ruled that Hanan can go to travel and come back, and the dates were given. Everyone was in court. Justice Stremsai was in the court. Later, he put up a Facebook post. I'm going to show you all that in the video. But the story is that Justice Stremsai, the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, failed to come to court yesterday to bring the application to the High Court, which he said he was preparing to challenge the High Court's decision to allow Hanan to travel. He unceremoniously and in Rambo style and unconstitutionally arrested Hanan at the airport when he had been cleared by a High Court to travel. Justice Stremsai and Dominic Ayeni have now elevated themselves above the High Court. So when the High Court said Hanan could travel in their presence, they said that Hanan was up to something, to removing money from some frozen accounts. I hear Martin Pebu says that it's possible. I don't know when he became a banker as well, but I hear Martin Pebu says it's possible to take money from frozen accounts. They should come and explain. It's now Tuesday. It's been 72 hours since Hanan was arrested. Hanan is still, as far as we know, still in custody. This morning, his lawyers didn't know where he was. His wife didn't know where he was. They are still keeping him in custody, and they have also not gone to the court, as promised by Justice Stremsai, to send the review application to the court. A contempt application is being filed against them. I don't know where it is now, but I understand that it's being filed against them. But this is the situation, viewers, of the law in Ghana. You go to court and tell the court, I am under prosecution, but I need to travel. The court says, show me why you should travel. You make an argument to the court. The Attorney General says, no, court, don't allow him to travel. The court says, no, I've looked at the documents. I think he can go. But Mr. Hanan, you are going on this date and you're coming on this date. And as soon as you arrive, you give your passport back to the registrar of this court. So the court has taken control. Hanan says, thank you very much. I'll be right back as soon as the date comes. He gets to the airport, he's traveling. They say, Stremsai says they should come and arrest you. Then Stremsai goes on Facebook and say, yes, this afternoon, security agencies have arrested Hanan because he was trying to remove money on Thursday from a frozen account. If the offense was committed on Thursday, there was Friday. They could have gone to court on Friday with that document to tell the court that the guy is violating his bail conditions. And so we want you to strike out that permission that you have given to him to travel because he's becoming a flight risk because of the way he's violating his bail conditions, especially relating to money. They didn't do that. They didn't do that because there's no truth in that. There's no truth. They can't find any truth. And then Monday comes and then they say they are going to court to review. All of yesterday, zero. Nobody was seen. In fact, yesterday, during the Kwabena Dubois trial, Justice Stremsai was not in court. This is the first time that Stremsai has been in Accra. He was sitting in his office. He refused to come to court. You know why? The embarrassment is becoming too much. The embarrassment is becoming too much. So he didn't come to court. The embarrassment is becoming very obvious. So yesterday, Stremsai did not come to court. He didn't come to court. Yesterday, Monday, he didn't come to court. And now, he has not also filed the processes against Hanan. I'm going to show you a video of the details of the entire Hanan matter, which was recorded earlier and put out on social media on Monday. But I want my viewers who are not on social media to see. So have a look at this video. Hello, viewers, and we're really sorry to come to you with this horrendous story, totally bizarre, standing up rule of law on its head completely. this is a clear violation of everything that lawyers, the Ghana Bar Association, private individual lawyers, academic lawyers, what has happened is turning everything that has been fought for upside down. I mean, something that we thought we had achieved in Ghana, it looks like we haven't achieved it. Justice Sremsai and Dominic Ayini are turning everything upside down. Now, what's the story? This is Hanan and his wife. So, you already know the Hanan story, don't you? So, Hanan was arrested and kept in BNI cells upon an Iyoko investigation, and they said he had stolen money from buffer stock. In one of his uncharacteristic press conferences, the learned Attorney General spent a lot of time explaining to Ghanaians how many wristwatches Hanan had and how many bags allegedly Hanan's wife had and how their home looked like and where the furniture was and all of that. It was quite bizarre, but here was an Attorney General who told the general public all of that, alleging that Hanan had stolen money and that he was going to be able to prosecute him. So he then went to court to prosecute Hanan, didn't he? And in going to court to prosecute Hanan, he had charges. So that's usual. So the charges were sent to the court. And then the prosecution began. And then step by step, Hanan's lawyers, Godfrey Dami and his law firm, began to dismantle the case of the Attorney General. We came here to tell you that step by step, he was dismantling the case of the Attorney General. One day we woke up in the morning, Sremsai, the Deputy Attorney General, had announced that they were withdrawing the charges against Hanan and that they were going to bring stiffer charges against him. Everyone wondered that if there were stiffer charges, based on what you said about him in the press conference, you really should have started with those stiffer charges, quote and unquote. Okay, so we waited for the stiffer charges. He said it was going to come in 28 hours, it didn't come. 48 hours, it didn't come. 72 hours, it didn't come. Then finally, when it came, it was shocking. Because when the new charges came, the charges had actually been reduced. The amount of money they were looking for from Hanan had actually also been reduced. The bail condition also had reduced. What did it mean? They had gone into their shelf, looked at the charges, and found out that some of the charges that they had preferred against him were based on gossip and hearsay, and that they wouldn't stand the test of the court's standards. So they had to pull them out. We don't know whether at the time Sremsai was bragging to the general public that he was going to give Hanan stiffer punishments and stiffer charges, that he was aware that the charges that had been preferred were so watery that they had to take some out. He probably didn't know, but he found out anyway. That's still the dereliction of duty, but forget about that. What has happened now is even worse. So they came back with new charges, and then they went to court. Whilst they were processing the new charges, the lawyers for Godfrey Dami realized that the witness statement had actually not been signed by anyone, which is wrong. It's a faux pas. It doesn't happen, okay? So the judge realized it during the case management, which is behind closed doors before they come to open courts. The judge realized and said that you cannot have this. We came here and said it. Sremsai hired somebody to say that we were wrong. Eventually, we brought the court documents itself, the judge speaking, and then we shut them up completely, that we were very right about it. That's very important. Now, during the first case, it was as part of Hanan's bail conditions. He was not allowed to travel outside the country as part of his bail conditions. He was not allowed to travel outside the country, okay? So they scrapped those charges and brought new charges. And the conversation was that now that they brought new charges, is he allowed to travel out of the country? The view of the court and the law was that to the extent that they have not added that to these new charges, whether he travels out of the country or not will be determined by the court itself. So Hanan said, yes, please make that determination. Now let's see what happens. So this is a court's document, yeah? Hanan Abdul Wahab, applicant, so order for leave to travel. Upon hearing the affidavits of Hanan of plot number so, the motion on notice to travel out of the jurisdiction and supplementary affidavit filed on 24th June 2026 respectively, and an affidavit in response filed by the state on 24th June. So Hanan's lawyers filed an affidavit that they need permission for him to travel from the court. The state on 24th June, the same day, filed an opposition to that affidavit. Let's see what the court said. Okay. Upon hearing the submission of Richard Jembibi Esquire, holding the brief of Godfrey Adami Esquire, counsel for and on behalf of the applicant herein, and Dr. Justice Sremsai, counsel for and on behalf of the Republic herein. It is hereby ordered that leave is granted A1 applicant to travel to London for an appointment with his obstetrician or somebody for 6th of July 2026. It is hereby further ordered that this order, A1 applicant's passport, is to be handed over to him. That is, Hanan's passport is to be handed over to him and permitted to travel out of the jurisdiction on or before the 4th day of July 2026. The court goes on, and it is hereby ordered that this order lapses on the 12th day of July 2026, and Hanan is to return the passport to the registry of this court on or before the 14th day of July 2026, given under my hand and the seal of the High Court of Justice, Accra, this 29th day of June 2026. Doris Dansoa, the registrar, is the one who signed it. My goodness. Viewers, this is the order of the court. You saw the details. The court has given the date Hanan can travel, and he has given the date Hanan should return to Ghana. The court has also given the date for the passport to be returned to the registry of the court. Essentially, what the court has done is that whether Hanan can travel or not, that decision is not that of the Attorney General, it is that of the court. And indeed, in the application that we just looked at, the Attorney General opposed the application of Hanan traveling. So here is Sremsai, goes to court. He loses an application. He doesn't come on Facebook and type that I have lost an application. I'm going to show you the very bizarre thing he put out on Facebook relating to this matter. I'm going to show you in a minute. Let's come back to the case, the court document. So the court document shows that the Attorney General was opposed to the decision of the court. The court made a decision at variance with the wishes of the Attorney General. This is what happened. So an Attorney General goes to court and loses an application. Then he tries to use police power to overturn the decision of the court. And that is why we are hearing this morning that a contempt application is being filed against Dominic Ayeni and Justice Sremsai for contempt of the High Court. Because here was a court who said Hanan can travel. So now watch the drama. So 4th July, Hanan should travel. So Hanan shows up at the airport. He's traveling from the Accra International Airport, formerly the Kotoka International Airport. It's now the Accra. He's traveling out of there to London, granted permission by the court. And then what happens? He goes past immigration. And that's the most important place where people can be stopped for movement situations, because there's no police desk at the court as such. There is immigration for those living, there's customs and all of that. There's police presence there, but there's no police stop that you stop to climb the plane. So you go through immigration. So immigration is where all the security issues are really settled. Hanan goes past immigration. Immigration don't query him. They don't have any orders to query him. He's about to board the flight, and then comes national security that he has been arrested. And he's confused about it because he has a High Court order permission to travel known to the Attorney General, who is the highest legal operator in the country, the principal legal advisor to government under Article 88 of the Constitution. So if the Attorney General, who is the highest law person, he's the leader of the bar as well, knows that I'm traveling, what's the problem? He's confused, but he's arrested. Now, see what happens. The one who ordered the arrest, the one who was embarrassed in court by the application, the same said Sremsai, it was who then comes on Facebook to accept and admit that he has given an order for Hanan to be arrested. When things change in this country, things will be very interesting. When power changes, Sremsai, the deputy attorney, sits in his house. Then he calls police, go to the airport and arrest Hanan. When he is aware that an application has been filed and the application has been successfully argued, and it was argued against his better wishes and against his counterclaim and counter application, he's aware. But because he's embarrassed and he wants to show power, he sits in his house. Then he makes a phone call to police because John Mahama is the president, and because John Mahama has appointed him, he can call police and the police would have to obey him. We don't want to lose that part. Once the police starts disobeying people like that, then we are in more trouble. So the police must obey him. We agree with that. Because the police must obey him, he takes a phone call and calls the police and says, Hanan is traveling, I've been told. Go and arrest him. So he writes, this is Justice Sremsai's Facebook page. Law enforcement officers have a while ago arrested Mr. Hanan Abdul Wahab Aludiba at the Accra International Airport. Mr. Aludiba, who is currently standing trial for stealing and causing financial loss to the Republic, was granted leave by the Trial High Court to travel to the UK for a few days. It was, however, Mr. Aludiba's attempt to use false means to empty his frozen bank account with Republic Bank on Thursday, which occasioned tonight's arrest. The learned Attorney General will on Monday seek a review of the court order which granted Mr. Aludiba leave to travel out of the country. Can you imagine this, viewers? Can you imagine this? So that's Sremsai. He's saying that, yes, he got a court order to travel, but he had attempted to remove money from his account on Thursday. How did he even put it? He has attempted to use false means to empty his frozen bank account. There are factual inaccuracies here. There is no frozen bank accounts of Hanan. The record is that there's no frozen bank accounts as far as his lawyers are telling us. Because the account has been unfrozen as a result of the pulling out of the first case, and the account, freezing the account was attached to the conditions of the first case they filed. When they pulled that out, the lawyers say that they had pulled out everything. They needed to come to court with a fresh application to freeze his account. So there are no frozen accounts at this time. I don't know whether Justice Sremsai knows or he doesn't know. There are no frozen accounts. But in any case, Hanan says that he has not taken any money from anywhere, and that he's telling all the media that the onus is on the Attorney General and his people to come and demonstrate. Well, they say that they are filing something in court today, so we'll see. They should come and demonstrate that he has tried to take money from the account. He says he has not taken any money, so that's also perhaps factually inaccurate. Because Hanan, well, he says he used false means without saying what the false means are. But if Hanan was taking money on using false means to take money, which Hanan completely denies, if he was doing that on Thursday, you had Friday to go back to the court with an order to arrest Hanan. You could have done that. The legal process allows that, because you had all of Friday and he's traveling on Saturday night. And that's when he crosses immigration, and then Sremsai feeling embarrassed that Hanan has traveled after all. He said you won't let him travel. He has traveled. He calls police and says, go on. And then he comes to put this there, admitting that he gave the order. That's really what this statement is admitting. Now they've stopped the press conferences. They are doing Facebook. And because Dominic Ayini is not very good on Facebook, Sremsai is the one who is doing the Facebook. That's what, they've stopped the press conference because that's getting really embarrassing. So now they are doing Facebook. Listen to what Hanan's lawyers say is the matter as far as they are concerned, and it will shock you. And this is the document. It's entitled Dami replies Sremsai, 5th July, to all media houses. The unlawful arrest of Hanan Abdul Wahab at the airport. Okay, the attention of the firm, Mrs. Dami and Partners, has been drawn to a Facebook post by the Deputy Attorney General, Justice Sremsai, he says that our client, after having been granted permission to travel to the United Kingdom by an order of the High Court Accra dated 29 June 2026, the said Facebook post, laden with falsehood, was a lame attempt to cover up the Attorney General's deplorable authorization of an order of a court of competent jurisdiction to be violated with impunity. We set out the true facts. Following an application filed by his lawyers, our client Hanan Abdul Wahab was permitted by the High Court to travel. We know that already, don't we? Let's go to the next page. The order of the court was consistent with precedents permitting accused persons on trial to travel in excess of their fundamental human rights. The record shows that in the past, Stephen Opuni, Seydou Agongo, Alhaji Collins Dauda, Dr. Kesela Toforsen, Dr. Kwabena Dufour, and many others who were being prosecuted during the Akufo-Addo were regularly permitted by the court to travel in and out of the country while standing trial. All of these people were permitted. When the table turns, Sremsai says that Hanan cannot travel. We don't know whether he has a personal problem with him. I don't know. The allegation by the Deputy Attorney General that our client attempted to use false means to empty his frozen account with the Republic Bank is simply untrue. We challenge him to produce evidence of a withdrawal or of any sum by our client from any of his bank accounts since the date of the court order. In any event, there is no valid order of any court of competent jurisdiction freezing our client's account. Our client's accounts were frozen last year pursuant to investigations, which resulted in his earlier arrest and persecutions. On 5th May 2026, the charges against our client were withdrawn, leading to his discharge. This resulted in a lapse of all orders made by the High Court relating to bail and freezing orders in respect of his earlier prosecution. On 15th May, fresh charges were filed by the Republic against our client. On 20th May, the High Court Adenta, presided over by His Lordship Kwame Osei-Gyamfi, held that the rearrest began a fresh process and implied that there is no valid freezing order in place. We have explained the true position of the law in a formal letter delivered to the Executive Director of Economic and Organized Crimes, Yoko, about 2 weeks ago. It is thus grossly deceptive and misleading for the Attorney General and his deputy to deploy BNI officials to arrest our clients based on a false allegation of an attempt to withdraw money from the bank. We consider the development very serious, and it confirms our suspicion that the Attorney General and his deputy are the masterminds of the frequent violations of court orders by law enforcement agencies and the persistent harassment of our clients and other citizens of Ghana under the current administration. We will accordingly institute proceedings for contempt of court against the Attorney General, his deputy, and the director of the BNI for this blatant and willful violation of an order of a court of competent jurisdiction. Freedom, in fact, has become a rare and expensive commodity. But why are they doing that? Why does President Mahama know that this is what is happening? That some of his officials are developing a wanton abuse of the law? Justice Sremsai, wanton abuse of the law. He decides that he's calling policemen, that the policemen should come and go and arrest somebody. Sremsai, you go to court and there's an application that you lose. You fail in the application. You go to court and your clients, the prosecution, the person you are prosecuting, the accused person, applies for leave to travel. You oppose the application, you lose. The court says, no, he can travel. And that is actually in keeping with precedent. If he was one of the lawyers for the NDC accused person like Dominic Aini was, he probably would have remembered, but I think they didn't select him as one of their lawyers. But Dominic Aini was lawyer for Dr. Dufo. And so they remember. And Dominic Aini should have told him that, oh, hey, when I was doing Dr. Dufo's case, he was always traveling. It's okay, let him go. But he wants to show power. He feels very powerful. I've never seen a deputy minister who is that powerful. A deputy minister who is so powerful or feels that powerful that he can call policemen and tell the policemen that stop Hanan. One day the tables will turn. Don't worry. One day the tables will turn. Anyway, that is Dominic Aini. But Uncle Dominic, don't you know that when you were defending Dufo, he was allowed to travel? He was traveling all the time, coming in, going out. Opuni, your other client, was coming in and going out. Didn't you tell your deputy that in those days, life was nicer? Being opposition was not as terrible. You can go to court, defend your client, and then he can also travel. Today you came as Attorney General, you cancel all the cases. Well, happy you. But remind him that when you were doing the cases, these guys were allowed to travel. I mean, what is this problem? Why is the Hanan? The Hanan thing is embarrassing Sremsai so much that he's doing all kinds of things. He goes to court, he loses. Your witness statements, you don't sign it. And then you're embarrassed by the court. Then you hire people on social media to talk about it and give a different picture, which is actually wrong. Then now the guy is traveling. You call police that they should stop him. You don't even keep quiet about it. You come on social media and you are writing that you have called the police that they should stop him at the mouth of the plane when he's about to board the plane, so that he will see where power lies. Oh my goodness. Is that how we want to run the country? I'm sure many of us don't want to run the country that way. I'm sure Asidun Ketia does not want the country. I'm sure anybody who loves Ghana does not want the country to run this way, because there's always a tomorrow.